This play is sponsored by the California Civil Liberties Public Education Program, a state-funded grant project of the California State Library.
LA Theater Works presents the Alliance Theater production of Native Guard by Natasha Trethewey, directed for radio by Rosalind Ayres.
Scenes from a documentary history of Mississippi. 1. King Cotton, 1907. From every corner of the photograph, flags wave down the main street in Vicksburg. Stacked to form an arch, the great bales of cotton rise up from the ground, like a giant swell, a wave of history flooding the town. When Roosevelt arrives, a parade. The band will march, and from every street corner, flags wave down. Words on a banner, "Cotton, America's King," have the sound of progress. This is 2 years before the South's countermarch, the great bowls of cotton risen up from the ground, infested with boll weevils, a plague, biblical, all around. Now, Negro children ride the bales, clothes stiff with starch. From up high in the photograph, they wave flags down for the president who will walk through the arch, bound for the future, his back to us. The children on their perch, those great bales of cotton rising up from the ground, stare out at us. Cotton surrounds them, a swell, a great mound, bearing them up, back toward us. From the arch, from every corner of the photograph, flags wave down, and great bales of cotton rise up from the ground. 2. Glyph, Aberdeen, 1913. The child's head droops, as if in sleep. Stripped to the waist, in profile, he's balanced on the man's lap. The man, gaunt in his overalls, cradles the child's thin arm. The sharp elbow, white signature of skin and bone, pulls it forward to show the deformity. The humped back, curve of spine, punctuating the routine hardships of their lives. How the child must follow him into the fields, haunting the long hours, slumped beside a sack, his body asking, "How much cotton?" Or in the kitchen, leaning into the icebox, "How much food?" Or kneeling beside him at the church house, "Why, Lord, why?" They pose, as if to say, "Look, this is the outline of suffering." The child shouldering it, a mound like dirt heaped on a grave. 3. Flood. They have arrived on the back of the swollen river, the barge dividing it, their few belongings clustered about their feet. Above them, the National Guard hunkers on the levee. Rifles tight in their fists, they block the path to high ground. One group of black refugees, the caption tells us, was ordered to sing their passage onto land like a chorus of prayer, their tongues, the tongues of dark bells. Here, the camera finds them still, posed as if for a school day portrait, children lace fingers in their laps. One boy gestures allegiance, right hand over the heart's charged beating. The great river all around, the barge invisible beneath their feet, they fix on what's before them. The opening in the sight of a rifle, the camera's lens, the muddy cleft between barge and dry land, all of it aperture, the captured moment's chasm in time. Here, in the angled light, of 1927. They are refugees from history. The barge has brought them this far. They are waiting to disembark.
We remember, thee remember, we remember thee, Zion.
4. You are late. The sun is high, and the child's shadow, almost fully beneath her, touches the sole of her bare foot on concrete. Even though it must be hot, she takes the step. Her goal to read is the subject of this shot. A book in her hand, the library closed, the door just out of reach. Stepping up, she must look at the 2 signs, read them slowly once more. The first one, in pale letters, barely shows against the white background. Though she will read Greenwood Public Library for Negroes, the other, bold letters on slate, will lead her away, out of the frame, a finger pointing left. I want to call her, say, wait! But this is history. She can't linger. She'll read the sign that I read. You are late. Native Guard.
If this war is to be forgotten, I ask in the name of all things sacred, what shall men remember? November 1862. Truth be told, I do not want to forget anything of my former life. The landscape's song of bondage, dirge in the river's throat where it churns into the gulf, wind in trees choked with vines. I thought to carry with me want of freedom, though I had been freed, remembrance, not constant recollection. Yes, I was born a slave at harvest time in the parish of Ascension. I've reached 33 with history of one younger inscribed upon my back. I now use ink to keep record, a closed book, not the lure of memory, flawed, changeful. That dulls the lash for the master, sharpens it for the slave. December 1862. For the slave, having a master sharpens the bend into work. The way the sergeant moves us now to perfect battalion drill dress parade. Still, we're called supply units, not infantry. And so we dig trenches, haul burdens for the army no less heavy than before. I heard the colonel call it nigger work. Half rations make our work familiar still. We take those things we need from the Confederates' abandoned homes, salt, sugar, even this journal, near full with someone else's words, overlapped now, cross-hatched beneath mine. On every page, his story intersecting with my own. January 1863. Oh, how his story intersects. My own birth upon a ship called the Northern Star, and I'm delivered into a new life. Fort Massachusetts. A great irony, both path and destination of freedom I'd not dared to travel. Here, now, I walk, ankle deep in sand, fly-bitten, nearly smothered by heat, and yet I can look out upon the gulf and see the surf breaking, tossing the ships, the great gunboats bobbing on the water. And are we not the same? Slaves in the hands of the master. Destiny. Night sky red with the promise of fortune, dawn pink as new flesh, healing, unfettered. January 1863. Today, dawn red as warning, unfettered supplies stacked on the beach at our landing, washed away in the storm that rose too fast, caught us unprepared. Later, as we worked, I joined in the low singing someone raised to pace us and felt a bond in labor I had not known. It was then a dark man removed his shirt, revealed the scars cross-hatched like the lines in this journal on his back. It was he who remarked at how the ropes cracked like whips on the sand, made us take note of the wild dance of a tent loosed by wind. We watched and learned. Like any shrewd master, we know now to tie down what we will keep. February 1863. We know it is our duty now to keep white men as prisoners, rebel soldiers, would-be masters. We're all bondsmen here, each to the other. Freedom has gotten them captivity, for us a conscription we have chosen. Jailers to those who still would have us slaves. They are cautious, dreading the sight of us. Some neither read nor write, are laid too low and have few words to send but those I give them. Still, they're wary of a Negro writing, taking down letters. X binds them to the page, a mute symbol, like the cross on a grave. I suspect they fear I'll listen, put something else down in ink. March 1863. I listen, put down in ink what I know they labor to say between silences too big for words. Worry for beloveds. My dearest, how are you getting along? What has become of their small plots of land? Did you harvest enough food to put by? They long for the comfort of former lives. I see you as you were, waving goodbye. Some send photographs, a likeness in case the body can't return. Others dictate harsh facts of this war. The hot air carries the stench of limbs rotten in the bone pit. Flies swarm, a black cloud. We hunger, grow weak. When men die, we eat their share of hardtack. April 1863. When men die, we eat their share of hardtack, trying not to recall their hollow sockets, the worm's stitch of their cheeks. Today, we buried the last of our dead from Pascagoula, and those who died retreating to our ship. White sailors in blue firing upon us as if we were the enemy. I'd thought the fighting over, then watched a man fall beside me, knees first as in prayer, then another, his arms outstretched as if borne upon the cross. Smoke that rose from each gun seemed a soul departing. The colonel said, an unfortunate incident, said, their names shall deck the page of history. June 1863. Some names shall deck the page of history as it is written on stone. Some will not. Yesterday, word came of colored troops dead on the battlefield at Port Hudson. How General Banks was heard to say, I have no dead there, and left them unclaimed. Last night, I dreamt their eyes still open, dim, clouded as the eyes of fish washed ashore, yet fixed, staring back at me. Still more come today, eager to enlist. Their bodies, haggard faces, gaunt limbs bring news of the mainland. Starved, they suffer like our prisoners. Dying, they plead for what we do not have to give. Death makes equals of us all. A fair master. August, 1864. Dumas was a fair master to us all. He taught me to read and write. I was a man's servant, if not a man. At my work, I studied natural things, all manner of plants, birds. I draw now in my book, wren, willet, egret, loon. Tending the gardens, I thought only to study live things, thought never to know so much about the dead. Now I tend ship island graves, mounds like dunes that shift and disappear. I record names, send home simple notes, not much more than how and when, an official duty. I'm told it's best to spare most detail, but I know there are things which must be accounted for. 1865. These are things which must be accounted for. Slaughter under the white flag of surrender. Black massacre at Fort Pillow. Our new name, the Coeur d'Afrique. Words that take the native from our claim. Mossbacks and freedmen, exiles in their own homeland. The diseased, the maimed, every lost limb and what remains. Phantom ache, memory haunting an empty sleeve. The hog eaten at Gettysburg, unmarked in their graves. All the dead letters unanswered. Untold stories of those that time will render mute. Beneath battlefields green again, the dead molder. A scaffolding of bone we tread upon, forgetting. Truth be told. After Winslow Homer, the dead, they lay along the lines like sheaves of wheat. I could have walked on the bodies almost from one end to the other.
This is the Alliance Theatre production of Native Guard by Natasha Trethewey. Our story continues next time. I'm Susan Loewenberg, producing director of LA Theatre Works.